Pictures by Jenny Bassett. One day, Basil Bunny and his 9 brothers and sisters were hopping by their father's garden. They all crowded up to the fence and gazed on the rows and rows of leafy vegetables. "Oh, look at those juicy carrot tops," exclaimed Rosemary. "And the lettuce, do you see those big leaves?" cried Pepper. "I wish we could go into the garden," said Ginger wistfully. "I wish we could taste those cabbages." "You know, we are not allowed," said Rosemary. Basil had been licking his lips and twitching his little whiskers. "What if we could get in without being seen?" he said suddenly. "What if we were nearly invisible?" "How?" cried all of the little bunnies at once. "Come on, I have an idea," exclaimed Basil. The little bunnies followed Basil down to the path to the Easter Bunny's house. The Easter Bunny had gone to get eggs from Mrs. Featherwhite, and the windows in his house were dark. The little bunnies pressed their noses on the glass and peered inside. "I see just what we need," said Basil, pointing to a high shelf. The little bunnies crept through the door and helped Basil get a large jar of paint from the shelf. The label on the jar said Easter egg paint, and at the bottom of the label were the words cabbage green. "The Easter Bunny won't mind if we use a little of his green paint," said Basil. He gave a paintbrush to each bunny. "Now cover all of your white fur," warned Basil. "If we are cabbage green bunnies, no one will see us in the garden." As soon as they were coated with green from nose to toe, the bunnies rushed to the door and pattered down the path. They were so eager to their father's garden that they never noticed the mess they had left behind. When they got to the garden, they could see their father planting, but he never saw the 10 cabbage green bunnies slip under the fence and tiptoe down the rows. Just as they were about to taste the vegetables, the 10 little bunnies heard a familiar voice shouting from down the path. "Mr. Rabbit, Mr. Rabbit," called the Easter Bunny. "Somebody took all of my green paint. All of it. I can't paint my eggs without green, Mr. Rabbit. My house is covered with green footprints, and look, the footprints lead right to your garden." The Easter Bunny was hopping up and down, waving the empty jar of cabbage green paint. Mr. Rabbit hurried to the edge of the garden. "I haven't seen a thief. I haven't seen anyone," he said. "Look at those footprints," cried the Easter Bunny. "Oh my, those footprints are small," said Mr. Rabbit. "And there are so many of them. Those footprints look like they belong to little bunnies." Mr. Rabbit and the Easter Bunny looked at each other, and then they looked at the garden. "I see one," cried the Easter Bunny, and he dashed into the garden and snatched the little bunny from under the tomatoes. And they found one bunny in the lettuce leaves, one on the wheelbarrow, one among the beans, and behind the watering can, one between the cabbages, one beside the flower pot, one under the carrot tops, one beside the hoe, one among the parsley. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 little bunnies bowed their heads until their ears flopped over their eyes. "You have been very bad, bunnies," said Mr. Rabbit. "Oh, we are sorry," sniffled all the bunnies at once. "You have used every drop of my green paint," cried the Easter Bunny. "March yourselves right over to Mr. Easter Bunny's house and clean up the mess right now," said Mr. Rabbit suddenly. When the little bunnies got to the Easter Bunny's house, he gave them brushes and buckets of soapy water. Then the Easter Bunny sat glumly in his big armchair, staring at the floor. "No green," he murmured. "I can't paint my eggs without green." The little bunnies laughed miserable. "Oh, what can we do? How can we ever make this right?" said Basil. The little bunnies shook their heads. "All we can do is clean up this mess. That is all." They scrubbed as hard as they could. Basil cleaned around the jars of paint, but he scrubbed too hard and knocked over a jar of yellow. In his rush to catch the yellow, he knocked over blue. Suddenly he slipped and skid into the yellow and blue paint. The Easter Bunny ran to see what was happening. "Now what?" he cried. "We are making a bigger mess." But everyone looked at the puddle of paint. The yellow and blue had run together. "Look, I've made green," cried Basil. "Mr. Easter Bunny, we can make green paint." The Easter Bunny chewed on his whiskers. "Well, it looks like we can make green." The little bunnies helped the Easter Bunny mix yellow and blue paint to make a big jar of green paint. The Easter Bunny put the jar of green paint on the shelf and looked at the little bunnies. "You won't be painting yourself with this green paint, will you?" "Never," cried the little bunnies. The Easter Bunny smiled a smile that meant all the bunnies were forgiven. That night, Mrs. Rabbit gave the little bunnies hot baths with lots of soap. When they were fluffy and dry, they wiggled their noses happily at the mirror. They saw 10 white little bunnies and not a speck of the cabbage green paint.